Is it smoke, or is the ground really starting to tremble? There's more rumors surrounding the ACC and the Big 12. What might it be this time?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. The playoffs are gone and sports have stopped sporting the way that we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Happy Friday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, as our ACC Conference Realignment smoke and maybe mirrors guru, give us a little bit of an update about what's been going on recently before we get into some rumors that are somewhat attached to this.
Well, where do we start? Right. We could start with the lawsuits, which are currently, people think there are 4. There are actually 5 lawsuits going on, not 4. The ACC is suing and they have been sued by and countersued Florida State and Clemson. So that's 4 of the suits. But the Florida Attorney General also has a lawsuit going against the ACC in terms of them, forcing them to, or attempting to force them to make their grant of rights deal public, which they're like, there are trade secrets in here. We nor ESPN want to release this. We're not doing it. So that's where we can start with this thing. But then we can go to, in terms of why we're still talking about realignment at this point. Well, Ross Dillinger was spitballing, throwing out hypotheticals for what Florida State and Clemson would want to do. He threw out 3 options. The obvious first one was, hey, get to the SEC, get to the Big Ten. Those are the preferred destinations for these 2 schools, which it makes sense. I mean, the SEC and the Big Ten, there's a wide chasm between their revenue levels and that of the Big 12 and the ACC at the moment. That's just a fact of life. That's not me, being a lapdog for those conferences. It's the truth. And so that's obviously the first option. The second option was going to, or staying in the ACC, but trimming the fat a bit. Okay. Now, how this would work out, I don't think it works out because the ACC just expanded. You can't bring people in and then say, actually, I'm laying all of you all off. It is not American employment. It is not at will. I promise you. It's not going to work out well for you if you try it. But that's the second proposal, that they stay in the ACC. The ACC just cuts some teams. The final proposal, which I think is the most interesting of the bunch, is that they go to the Big 12. And the Big 12 sees a significant influx of private equity money to then make Florida State, Clemson, and potentially Notre Dame the richest paid schools in all of the land, in addition to an extra $15 million for each of the schools that are already Big 12 members. That is where we are, and that's where this thing kind of took off, or that's where we started at. This is where things kind of take off. Greg Swain, for those of you who don't know, very unserious character that
the most unserious.
He does bad takes for a living. I know that Elon Musk said that he was going to get engagement farmers off of Twitter. As long as Greg Swain has an account, Elon Musk, you are a liar. You are a unteller of truths, or a teller of untruths, rather, because it can't be the truth while he's still on the website. But Greg Swain then says the Big 12 is in advanced talks to add Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame, and I believe there's another school in there that is slipping my mind right now. But those are the 3 that were the biggest names to which, it's interesting. It's an interesting fan theory, but I have many, many reasons why that doesn't make sense. But I don't want to yap too much. I want to get Grace's opinion on this.
So, yeah, that kind of leads us into some of the rumors that we're going to talk about. And, okay, first of all, Greg Swain, if you see this person on social media, he's spouting off takes about future realignment and providing updates and breaking news, do not listen to a single word of it. It is all purely clickbait. I've never seen someone chase the clickbait clout like Greg Swaim does. Take that nugget and remember the next time you see that name, he is not telling you the truth. Okay, so getting into some of these rumors that Kenton was talking about. So Ross Dellinger is a reporter for Yahoo Sports, and just a couple days ago at the Big 12 Media Days out in Vegas, he was on a Big 12 talk show and alluded to the fact that Clemson and Florida State may have been engaged in some conversations entertaining the idea of expanding out to the Big 12. There are rumors floating around that they will not receive an invite to the Big 10, being that they are not AAU accredited, because the Big 10 is extremely hardcore about all of their member institutions being AAU accredited. So that is supposedly off the table. Then there is the rumor that the SEC has rejected Clemson and Florida State. That leads you to the mystery third option. If they are to leave the ACC, perhaps they will land in the Big 12. So the bigger question in all of this, playing the hypothetical, let's say Clemson and Florida State do end up going to the Big 12. Kenton, what do you think that would mean for NC State and the ACC?
Okay, Clemson and Florida State going to the Big 12 means the exact same thing that it would mean if Clemson and Florida State went to the Big 10. Means the exact same thing as Clemson and Florida State going to the SEC. With all due respect, you are going to be the kings of a castle that is a sinking ship, in essence. Like you're going to be the top dogs in the conference right away, but you need to you need to understand that you're not the top dogs of a top conference anymore. That's just the reality of where the ACC would be if it were to be a situation where those two teams left. The beauty in it, though, is you still are recognized as a top conference, and your champion gets an automatic bid. There is no more worrying, no potential Florida State of 2023 situations, nothing like that. If you win, you're in terms of the playoffs, which is an absolute bonus and benefit to NC State. And here's the worst part about it. Of all of the sports of consequence, right? And by of consequence, I mean financially. Really, we know football is the driver, but I mean all the sports that even have a chance of breaking even or making money. The reality is losing Florida State and Clemson in those is like, meh. Clemson was really good last year. Meh. So what I'm saying is, outside of football, you're not looking at anything that moves the needle for either one of these teams in a way that's like, oh, man, now that they're gone, we're going to be the kings of the castle. But in football, the one that actually matters, the one that is the money mover, yeah, you definitely become top dogs overnight.
I've said this many times on here before. I typically try to keep my nose out of conference realignment talk because it just makes me like irrationally angry. However, the idea of Clemson and Florida State moving on to the Big 12, leaving NC State become potentially the next power in the ACC, would that be the worst thing in the world? I mean, you think about it in terms of the calendar year that NC State just had in all of their sports combined, seemingly winning and excelling at everything. If you continue to progress on that front and football continues to climb the ladder, basketball continues to climb the ladder, baseball, women's basketball, swimming, wrestling, whatever it may be, if you continue to push your brand up higher and the two proverbial top dogs in your conference move on, that leaves you basically to man the ship. I think I would take that deal. I think if NC State gets the opportunity to become the next superpower in the ACC, hello, yeah, we'll take that right now. We're going to continue building on this momentum and then hopefully capitalizing. Like Kenton mentioned, would the conference brand as a whole take a hit? Obviously, yes, because Clemson and Florida State, let's be honest here, they've propped up the ACC for quite some time. So if they leave, you're going to be looked at as a lesser of a Power 4 conference. That's just the reality of the situation. But if NC State continues on this upward climb across all sports, but specifically in football, they might be just fine sticking here in the ACC. That would surely become new and refined in some way, shape, or form. I'm sure additional teams would be brought back in to try and counterbalance, but NC State would float much higher to the top of that conference. That feels like an absolute win for Wolfpackers everywhere. Whether this is a bunch of smoke, I presently think it is. I think this time of year, it's anything for clicks for these guys. If it's conference realignment, people are starting to freak out about it. That's how they make their money this time of the year. So don't be fooled. However, it's a very interesting hypothetical to try and chew on here because whether you like it or not, additional conference realignment is coming. It's not going to be this year, but at some point down the line, it's going to happen again in a major fashion. More than likely, it will involve ACC schools because it kind of hasn't yet, with the exception of Cal, Stanford, and SMU. So more hypotheticals to play with here. But if Clemson and Florida State move on to the Big 12, I'm all good here. I'm cool with that. I say NC State continues to rise to the top of the ACC, and we'll hold it down in this neck of the woods.
In the words of Brad Pitt and Inglourious Basterds, you take that deal, I'll take that deal. It's a damn good deal, okay? It's a good deal to me.
Coming up next, we're going to get into Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's the formula for winning championships. But it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, and LED headlights, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. That's because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Middle portion of our Friday show. It's now time for Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week. Here we go. First one here comes from Hudson. He says, you can't forget about Dakari Collins, big 6'5" wideout who has developed a lot over the offseason. Going to be a problem for opposing defenses this season. I think this is a fantastic take. When Dakari Collins transferred to NC State from Clemson 2 seasons ago, he was a guy I immediately latched onto and said, this guy is going to be a difference maker at NC State. I could feel it. He was a 4-star wideout, pretty highly coveted coming out of high school, just could not crack the rotation at Clemson, so he moves on. I felt like it was a really good pickup for NC State. Now, over the course of last offseason, he battled through a lot of injury, and even getting into the beginning parts of the season, he was still dealing with injury. Really looked like he didn't feel entirely healthy until towards the end of the season when he did start to step up and make a true difference on the field. I think that momentum, if that carries into 2024, he could be one of the top wide receivers on this team. And he's a guy I really don't think gets talked about that often, which kind of keeps him under the radar. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. I personally think it's a good thing. I think this season could shape up really nicely for a Dakari Collins breakout year.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think 11 personnel will be NC State's go-to personnel. And by 11, what I mean is you count off how many backs are coming into the game first, and then how many tight ends are coming into the game, right? So 11 personnel, you would have 1 back, 1 tight end, which means you have 3 receivers. 21 personnel, 2 backs, 1 tight end, which means you have 2 receivers. Somehow, all of the numbers have to equal 5 around that personnel grouping. If you get, 10 personnel, that's 1 back, 4 wideouts, whatever the case may be. Now, with that being said, I think Dakari is going to be a starter. I'm fairly confident that the wide receiver rotation will look like at the top. And I could be wrong here. This is speculation. I am not basing this off of insider information I have. I tell y'all when I am. This is not one of those moments. I think the outside receivers are going to be Rogers, Collins, Casey in the slot, Jolie at tight end. I think that's going to be the pass-catching group with Waters as the starting running back. So, I think that, while you say don't forget about Dakari Collins, I don't think that he'll give folks room to forget about him during the season because, again, I think that this group is going to spread ACC defenses out thin in terms of how many guys you have to check because they are threats. They are absolutely threats. You say, oh, we've got KC under control. Then Noah's going off. And then, okay, we'll get KC and Noah under control. And then Jolie. And then Jolie's under control. And then Dakar. This is a group that I think this is the most talented group of pass catchers assembled at one time since Dorn's been here. I really and truly do believe that.
Agree. To be honest with you, I don't even think it's close.
Yeah.
Next one here comes from Red Wolves Forever. It says, so excited about our future. I haven't heard much discussion about our kicking team. Could you break it down for us in upcoming episodes? Yes. So special teams is very obviously a facet of NC State and really any college football team that does not get talked about very often. So we'll spend a couple minutes on it here. Revolving the kicking game, obviously, Braden Narveson, who was our place kicker last year, he was a grad student, 1-year rental, so he has now moved on, looking for, I assume, opportunities in the NFL or another pro league. So that leaves one of two options for NC State. Now, one of these is Colin Smith. Colin Smith has been handling all of the kickoff duties for NC State. And I do believe after the Pop-Tarts Bowl this past season, he entered the transfer portal. Then a couple weeks to maybe like a month later, he withdrew his name to return to NC State. So more than likely, Colin Smith will be in the running to be the place kicker. I would assume that he would still handle kickoff duties. Maybe the special teams unit is just going to have them focus on one or the other. But nonetheless, you're going to see Colin Smith either as your place kicker or your kickoff guy. And that leads me to the second option. That's Kanoa Vincent. Now, you probably saw Kanoa in the spring game. He's a redshirt sophomore, and I've heard the staff is extremely high on him. They felt confident that if Colin Smith did stay in the portal and move on, they would feel very comfortable with Kanoa at place kicker. So to me, that might sound like there's a pretty sizable battle to be taking place here once fall camp starts in just a couple of weeks. It seems like maybe it's not quite settled yet. If Vincent is talented enough, he might just win the job outright in the fall. But nonetheless, Colin Smith has been with NC State for quite some time with a wealth of experience, albeit maybe not in place kicking specifically in game, but you're going to see probably both of those names in terms of kicking. And then punting, we still have Caden Noonkester. He is still here at NC State, affectionately known as Boomkester. He's going to be one of the top punters, not just in the ACC, but more than likely the country. So special teams has been very key for NC State these past couple of years. I fully expect that to continue in 24.
Of all the things that I think Doran does that are underrated, one of the most underrated, he's done a fantastic job of recruiting kickers. Yeah. Time after time after time again. I would say the only miss, and this is with all due respect to this young man, and he's a fine young man. I hate to, take a shot at another Michigander. I love you, boy. Kyle Bambard, it was probably the only one that was like, oh, no, this didn't work out well. But literally every other kicker that we've had, Grayson, can you name a kicker that we've had that wasn't in contention for all ACC, that wasn't, pushing for some type of end-of-season award? You know what I mean? Like they've all been very, very quality guys. So, special teams is something, particularly the kicking game, is something that I'm like, I have faith that Doran and staff will coach it up because it's not something that's like it's an extra, take care of it when we get to it type of thing. No, special teams is emphasized as 1/3 of the game, which it is.
We were all extremely spoiled for, I think, 5 or 6 years by Chris Dunn. Braden Arvison last season had very big shoes to fill, and I thought he did an excellent job. But yeah, that speaks to your point, Kenton. Dave Doran and the special teams staff has done an excellent job of really emphasizing how important special teams are here at NC State. They utilize special teams to the fullest extent, whether it's field goal, whether it's kick return, punt return, kickoff coverage, punt block coverage. Every single facet that I just listed has made significant impacts in several games over the course of the last 5-6 years. So special teams being as important as it is, if the coaching staff feels extremely comfortable with who they got, who are we to call that into question? So Colin Smith and Kanoa Vincent are going to be both of your kickers. Maybe one's kickoff, maybe one's place kicker. Could be one doing both. That remains to be seen, but those are the two names to know in the kicking game. And last one here of our first section. This one comes from Bob Funk. He says, Kenton, you are my brother from another mother. I've been promoting the collective Wolf Howl on NC State forums for years. And not only could it be done during kickoffs, it could be started up spontaneously at any time when the crowd is amped up. Like the Seminole chant, but spookier and more intimidating. Let's do it, Pack fans. Student body needs to organize this. So as we mentioned the other day, involving some possibly new traditions to be started at NC State, the collective Wolf Howl that could set a Guinness Book of World Records record, that got a lot of positive buzz, surprisingly. If this is organized efficiently, I think people could really latch onto this. I think it could be a new thing to be seen at Carter-Finley Stadium. Every kickoff, the whole place howl. We'll have to see if this actually does get done and if it does end up being a really cool deal. But a lot of people seem very interested in getting this Wolf Howl going, Kenton. How do you feel about it?
I will tell you this. I still have a few strings to pull. I still have a few connections around the Murphy Center. I will be putting some bugs in some ears about the fan excitement for a collective howl. Now, here's the deal. I'm not guaranteeing that, this thing immediately happens or whatever the case may be. But hypothetically, if there were to be some prompt for a howl, like if there were to be some prompt put up maybe on the Jumbotron or something along those lines for a collective Howl. The fans have to do their part.
Yeah.
I love this idea. I am very much for this idea. Bob, you've probably been pushing this for longer than I've been a member of Wolfpack Nation, and I'm fine with that. I think that you deserve your credit. I think that the other guy who's always talking about it in our comments deserves his credit. I think that everybody deserves their credit for getting this collective Wolf Howl going, but it has to be a record breaker, and it has to be started week 1. You got to start it in the situation where it's like low stakes, not much going on, just to see how it goes over and to build that rep, build that, hey, did all 30,000, 40,000, however many thousand fans are here, did they all just howl together? Get it going one time, and then you break it out and make it a permanent tradition. Make it every single time there's a Wolfpack kickoff, every single time Wolfpack defense is on the field on 3rd down, every single time we're going to get it on the screen. 3, 2, 1, and then everybody loses their mind with the howl. I can't guarantee that it'll happen. I will do my best to make it happen.
The best traditions tend to happen organically, but if we start this now, we start it early, and we do it right, it could turn into a very fun tradition for years to come. Yeah. Coming up next, we're getting into the second half of Fan Friday after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor of the day is FanDuel. Look, we all love sports. In fact, we love them so much, we never want them to end. The playoffs are gone, and summer's getting a little bit dull without the help of Major League Baseball. We have the Olympics soon, but right now sports aren't exactly sportsing the way we want them to. But that's where FanDuel comes into play. They let us keep the sports going whenever we want. All we have to do is open up the app and dream up any bets at any time. And this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Last couple minutes of our Friday show. Now rounding out Fan Friday. Let's get it. Next one comes from WL Younts. They say, love the record Howl idea and also the diamond helmet game. Basketball always has their legacy game in Reynolds. Football needs to wear legacy uniforms, at least the legacy diamond helmet game each year. It would be a great way to honor the legend, Dick Sheridan. So yeah, this is kind of my main point that I've maintained these last couple seasons. Basketball has their legacy game every year, and everyone adores it. That game that we get to play in Reynolds Coliseum, it's one of the highlights of the season every year. I'll even extend over to baseball. Baseball has their throwback uniforms that they wear at least once, if not a couple more times after that, seemingly every year. If they can do it, why can't football do it? Everyone loves the diamond helmets. Everyone loves a throwback night. Just getting the fans and the crowd involved in a way that's abnormal, like a throwback night, a themed night. People love that. They eat it up. The opportunity to not only do that, but also honor one of your Wolfpack legends, Dick Sheridan, it's right there on the table. I cannot for the life of me wrap my mind around why this is not a layup for NC State football. It makes all the sense in the world. You would have all the support in the world to do it. We got to make this happen.
We absolutely have to make it happen. Dick Sheridan was a legend on so many fronts. I mean, there are so many things about him that you could name that are iconic and so very much so entrenched in the Wolfpack. I mean, he never lost to the Dirty Foot Club, not once. Beat them boys every time they came into the Carter and going into Carter-Finley West. Beat them like they stole something every single time. The man deserves the diamond helmet to be worn, to be admired, to be respected. It's one of those things that's like, we can't put his jersey up in the rafters, but we can honor him every single year by, having that and whatever his family would need to make it worth their while if they just want to see it outright, or if they're like, hey, donate X amount of the gate to whatever cause we like, doesn't matter to me. Do what needs to be done to get the Dick Sheridan helmet game or the diamond helmet game going every year.
And speaking of Wolfpack legends, I actually did see that Monty Kiffin has sadly passed away. Another Wolfpack legend, head coach way back in the day, defensive-minded guru. He's a legend here at NC State. So just another reason we have to continue honoring our Wolfpack legends. I truly don't think that gets done as often as it should. And whether the name is up in the rafters or they have a patch on the jersey that we wear every year, we have to continually find new ways to involve the past history of NC State. So whether it's Monty Kiffin or Dick Sheridan, we got to keep finding new ways to honor legends of Wolfpack past. Next one comes from Jason NCSU. I would love to see a fan tradition of being in your seat at the start of the third quarter. As an anti-tradition for all NC State sports, for the love of all that is good, please stop playing Sweet Caroline. UNC has dibs on that. I don't want it. Get it out of my ear holes. No reaching out and touching you from Jason NCSU. Jason, I'm fully with you on the fan tradition of staying in your seat the third quarter. I know this is kind of a battle that no one will ever win. With the fan pass outs, the ability to go back to your tailgate between halftime and the beginning of the third quarter, it's a tough battle to be fought. However, there needs to be the understanding that the fan participation and energy coming back into that second half, it absolutely matters. Folks, as best as they possibly can, need to be back in their seat by the time they're kicking off the second half. I understand the appeal of a tailgate. You got all your friends and your family in town. Look, I absolutely love a tailgate. You will find me bouncing around out there all the time. I love me a tailgate. But I'd be lying to you if I said I ever missed the beginning of the second half. I know where my feet need to be once that clock hits 15 again. So I'm all for enforcing some way or somehow everyone being back in their seat at the beginning of the third quarter.
What if they ran a promotion that was like, hey, free Chick-fil-A for everybody who comes back? You'll get like a stamp to show that you came back.
You'd be having people lying left and right.
Free cookout tray, whatever the case may be. Free
for that chicken.
Free meal at wherever for, coming back. But I agree with this wholeheartedly. I agree with everything in this. Number one, get folks back in seats. Absolutely. I'm gonna make a confession. Grayson knows half of this, but even he may be caught a little off guard by this. The songs Wagon Wheel and Sweet Caroline are both the bane of my existence. I hate both of those songs to no end. And maybe it's because I'm not from around here. Maybe it's just not I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. And honestly, the first time that I heard Sweet Caroline, was actually listening to the music, I instantly associated with the Dirty Foot Club myself. So I was like, what is this? Turn this off. Listen, I'm fine. I can tolerate Wagon Wheel. Sweet Caroline, I was about to lose our clean rating. Get that mumbo jumbo off of the airwaves immediately. Jason, NCSU, you and I are on the same page here, brother.
And last one of our Friday show comes from GelPack05. They say, I would love to see Carter-Finley expanded to 65,000. So that brings up a very interesting point here. I've seen people kind of hint at this over the years, being that NC State sells out Carter-Finley every single year now. We have an extremely impressive record, whether we're playing Campbell or Louisiana Tech or Notre Dame or the Dirty Foot Club or Clemson. We are in the Carter and we're ready to roll. That part is extremely well-deserved by NC State. To have sold out every season for, basically as long as I can remember going backward here, that's a great feat. And it begs the question, will Carter-Finley expand up to a larger number? Because truth be told, the Carter feels big and it sounds big with the noise in there when you're in it. But in all reality, it's not really that big of a college football stadium. Clemson, for example, they're up in the 80,000. I don't know if we'll ever get to that size, obviously, but I would warm up to the idea of Carter-Finley being expanded somewhere in the near future. And I'll tell you what, to put that on the fast track, you win an ACC title this fall, you get into the CFP this fall, maybe win a couple of games in that CFP, that'll certainly make expansion a whole lot more feasible in Carter-Finley Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, it goes back to what Jason NCSU was talking about. If you not only win, but you have full seats all throughout the game, it's easy to pitch, hey, we need money. We need to raise money to expand the stadium by 8,000 seats, 10,000 seats, whatever the case may be, because we are selling out. The demand is there. We want to make this happen. Let's do it.
We all know the saying, if you build it, they will come. I think there's nowhere else truer than Carter-Finley Stadium. If you were to expand, I would almost guarantee all those new seats would have butts in them too. I expect Wolfpack Nation especially with the popularity being one of the hotter brands on the block right now, there's going to be more people that want to come see NC State play. So there's definitely a lot of sales pitches to be thrown around in terms of expansion. But I tell you what, if NC State wins some hardware, they start putting up double-digit win seasons seemingly every year, you're going to see Carter-Finley expanded probably sooner than later. That'll do it for us here on Friday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us what you think about potential rumors about the Big 12 looking at Clemson and Florida State, whether that would or would not impact NC State. Let us know in the comments. And anything else you have on your mind, whether it's recruiting, this coming season, the schedule, maybe even some basketball, anything. If it's on your mind, drop it down in the comment box. We'll be sure to respond to each and every one of those. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not already. And go Pack.
Go Pack.